What if I told you that right now, in 2026, there is a 24-year-old man who is doing something that even Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic never did at this age, and the tennis world is completely losing its mind over it? Stay right here, because what Jannik Sinner is doing this season is not normal. This is not a hot streak. This is not luck. This is something that happens once in a generation, maybe once in a lifetime, and if you leave this video right now, you are going to miss the full story of the most dominant tennis player on the planet. Let's go back to the beginning. Jannik Sinner was born on August 16, 2001, in San Candido, a tiny village in the Italian Alps. Not a big city. Not a famous tennis academy. A mountain town where kids grow up skiing, not swinging rackets. And that is exactly where Sinner started, on skis. He was one of the best young skiers in his region, training hard on the slopes every winter. But something changed when he picked up a tennis racket. There was something different in the way he moved, the way he read the game, the way he competed. By the age of 13, he made one of the biggest decisions of his young life. He left his family, left the mountains, and moved to Bordighera in southern Italy to train full-time at the Piatti Tennis Center under the legendary coach Riccardo Piatti. Let that sink in for a second. 13 years old. Away from his family. In a sport where talent alone means nothing without sacrifice. And Sinner sacrificed everything. He trained 6 to 7 hours a day. He studied the game like a scientist. He was obsessed, not with fame, not with money, but with becoming the best version of himself. That mindset, built in a small alpine village, is the foundation of everything you are about to hear. By the time Sinner turned professional in 2018, he was already being compared to the greats. He had a technique that coaches dream about, a two-handed backhand with extraordinary depth and precision, a forehand that could punish any short ball, and footwork that was far beyond his years. But what really separated him from other young talents was his mental game. He did not get nervous in big moments. He did not crumble under pressure. He welcomed it. His rise through the ATP rankings was rapid. By 2020, he was already in the top 75 in the world. By 2021, he was cracking the top 15. He was defeating former world number ones. He was winning titles on multiple surfaces. People started saying his name in the same sentence as Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, the holy trinity of men's tennis. And for the first time in years, tennis fans started believing that the next great era had truly arrived. Then came 2024, the year that changed everything. At the Australian Open in January 2024, Sinner was down 2-0 against Daniil Medvedev in the semi-final. Most players, when they are down 2-0 against a former world number one on a Grand Slam stage, they lose. They fold. The moment is too big. But Sinner came back and won in 5 sets in one of the greatest comeback performances in Australian Open history. And then in the final, he faced Medvedev again and beat him to win his first Grand Slam title. The Italian Alps boy had become a Grand Slam champion. But there was a dark cloud forming at the same time. While Sinner was climbing to the very top of world tennis, news broke that he had tested positive for a banned substance, clostebol, a small amount found in 2 drug tests taken in March 2024. Sinner claimed, and an independent tribunal accepted, that the substance entered his body through contaminated massage cream used by his physio. He was initially cleared, but the World Anti-Doping Agency appealed the decision. For months, Sinner had to live with uncertainty, not knowing if he would face a ban, not knowing how history would judge him. It was the biggest crisis of his career. In February 2025, the Court of Arbitration for Sport handed down its decision. Sinner received a 3-month ban. He served the ban and returned to tennis, and here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Instead of being broken, instead of coming back tentative and shaky, Jannik Sinner came back like a man with something to prove. He came back and he started destroying everyone in his path. Now we arrive at 2026, and this is where your jaw needs to be on the floor. In the 2025 US Open, Sinner won the title. In the 2026 Australian Open, he won again, his 3rd Grand Slam. And then what happened next is the stuff of tennis legend. He went to Indian Wells in California and won. He went to Miami and won. He went to Monte Carlo and won. He went to Madrid and won. 5 consecutive ATP Masters 1000 titles, something no man in the history of the ATP Tour had ever done before. Ever. In the 35-year history of the Masters 1000 series, not one player, not Federer, not Nadal, not Djokovic, had won 5 in a row. Sinner did it at 24 years old. And he was not done. He arrived in Rome, the Italian Open, the tournament where he had never won before, the tournament held in his home country, in front of fans who worship him like a national hero, on courts where the President of Italy himself came to watch. The atmosphere was electric. The weight of 50 years of history sat on his shoulders. because the last Italian man to win the Italian Open was Adriano Panatta in 1976. 50 years. Sinner vs. history. In the quarterfinals, he faced Andrei Rublev and destroyed him 6-2, 6-4 in an hour and 32 minutes, breaking Novak Djokovic's record of 31 consecutive Masters 1000 victories in the process. Sinner was now the man with the longest winning streak at Masters 1000 level in the history of the sport. In the semi-final, he faced Daniil Medvedev. A match that started on Friday, was suspended due to rain, and had to be completed on Saturday. Sinner was exhausted. He said himself he barely slept. But he closed it out. And then on Sunday, May 17, 2026, in front of a packed Campo Central, with Panatta himself in the crowd, Sinner walked out for the final against Norway's Casper Ruud. The match was not perfect tennis. Sinner was tired, and Ruud was sharp. The Norwegian pushed him into long physical rallies, tested his legs, tested his resolve. But Sinner is not a player who loses when he is tired. He is a player who finds a way. He won the first set 6-4. He won the second set 6-4. 1 hour and 44 minutes. 6 consecutive Masters 1000 titles. The first Italian to win the Italian Open in half a century. And most importantly, the career Golden Masters. A sweep of all 9 ATP Masters 1000 events. Only one man had ever done it before in the 35-year history of the series, Novak Djokovic. Djokovic was 31 years old when he completed it. Sinner is 24. He is 7 years ahead of schedule. After the match, Ruud stood at the trophy ceremony and said, and these words were not scripted, they came from a fellow professional who knows what it takes, he said. What you are doing this year is hard to describe with words. As someone who is also playing tennis at the highest level, to realize what you are doing is hard to describe. It is an honor to watch you play. When your opponent says that after you beat him, you know you are doing something special. Now let us talk numbers, because the numbers are staggering. Sinner's 2026 season record stands at 36 wins and 2 losses. His Masters 1000 winning streak is at 34 matches. His overall match winning streak is at 29. He has won 6 titles already this year before the French Open has even started. And here is the comparison that has tennis fans completely divided. People are now asking whether 2026 Jannik Sinner would beat 2011 Novak Djokovic, widely considered one of the greatest single seasons in tennis history. Jannik Sinner, the former American star, was recently asked this question directly and gave his honest answer. The debate is real. It is happening. And that tells you everything about where Sinner stands right now. But here is the question that everyone in the tennis world is asking today: can he win the French Open? The tournament starts today, May 18, 2026. And if Sinner wins Roland Garros, he will have 3 Grand Slams this season alone, plus 5 Masters 1000 titles, plus the career Golden Masters. That would be the greatest single season in men's tennis since Djokovic in 2011, maybe ever, depending on who you ask. Carlos Alcaraz, his biggest rival, is not defending his title this year because of a wrist injury. The draw is wide open. And Sinner, who finished Rome as recently as yesterday, will walk onto the clay courts of Paris as the overwhelming favorite. Let us take a step back and appreciate what is actually happening here from a human perspective. This is a 24-year-old kid from a mountain village in northern Italy who chose tennis over skiing, left his family at 13, trained in obscurity for years, survived a doping scandal that could have ended his career, came back from a 3-month ban, and then, instead of being cautious, instead of rebuilding slowly, he went on the most dominant Masters 1000 run in the history of the sport. He is not playing it safe. He is not managing his schedule. He is showing up to every tournament, and he is winning. And what makes him truly different from the other players of his generation, different from Alcaraz, different from Zverev, different from anyone, is the consistency of his mental performance. Tennis is a game where your mind is your biggest enemy. The pressure of a match point, the frustration of a missed shot, the fear of losing to a lower-ranked player, these things destroy talented players every single week on the tour. Sinner appears immune to all of it. He does not celebrate too much when he is winning. He does not panic when he is losing. He just plays. Point after point. Game after game. Set after set. Match after match. That robotic consistency, combined with world-class physical talent, is what has produced a 34-match Masters 1000 winning streak. His coach, Darren Cahill, the Australian legend who also coached Andre Agassi and Leighton Hewitt, has spoken about what makes Sinner unique. He says that Sinner processes information on court faster than any player he has ever worked with. When something is not working, Sinner identifies it and adjusts, not in the next set, not after a coaching session, but within the same game, sometimes within the same game. His tennis intelligence is off the charts. And his fitness, let us talk about his fitness for a moment. Sinner entered the Italian Open having played 27 matches in 68 days. That is one competitive match every 2.5 days, on average for over 2 months. And he was not just winning these matches. He was winning them in straight sets, in under 2 hours, barely giving his opponents a chance to breathe. Rafael Nadal's uncle Tony, who coached Nadal for over 2 decades and knows the mental side of tennis better than almost anyone alive, recently said that Alexander Zverev is afraid of Sinner. Afraid. That is the word he used. The world number 2 is afraid of the world number 1. Speaking of the big titles race, here is another number that puts everything in perspective. At the start of 2026, after the Australian Open, Carlos Alcaraz led Sinner in the big titles count, a combination of Grand Slams, Masters 1000 titles, ATP Finals trophies, and Olympic gold medals, by 15-11. 4 titles ahead. 4 titles is a massive gap between players of this caliber. Sinner has since won 5 Masters 1000 events. He now leads Alcaraz 16-15. He closed a 4-title gap in less than 4 months. And Alcaraz is not even playing Roland Garros. The gap could be even bigger by the end of June. Now let us zoom out even further and look at Sinner's position in the broader history of men's tennis. We are still living in the shadow of the big 3, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, 3 men who won 66 Grand Slam titles combined and dominated the sport for 2 decades. For a long time, tennis fans wondered, who comes next? Who fills the enormous void that those 3 legends will eventually leave? For a while, it looked like it might be a committee, Alcaraz here, Zverev there, Medvedev occasionally. But in 2026, the answer is becoming clearer. It is Sinner. He already has 3 Grand Slam titles. He has 10 Masters 1000 titles. He has completed the career Golden Masters, something only Djokovic has ever done. He has a season-winning percentage that puts him alongside the greatest players who ever lived. And he is 24 years old. If Sinner continues at this trajectory, and there is no reason, based on what we have seen, to think he will slow down, then by the time he is 30, we could be having a very different conversation. We could be talking about someone who has challenged the all-time Grand Slam record. We could be talking about a player who belongs in the same sentence as Federer and Nadal, not just as a contemporary, but as a legacy. The French Open is now underway. The clay courts of Roland Garros are spread out before him. Alcaraz is absent. The field is open. And the question is not whether Sinner will be competitive at the French Open. The question is, can anyone stop him? He arrives in Paris having won 6 titles this year. He arrives having lost only 2 matches in 2026. He arrives with the weight of the career Golden Masters completed, the pressure of Rome behind him, and the momentum of the most dominant stretch of tennis any 24-year-old has ever produced. He is tired, he said so himself. But this is Sinner. Tired or not, he finds a way. If you are a tennis fan, you are living through something rare. You are watching the emergence of a generational talent in real time. The records are falling. The history is being made. And it is happening right now, in May 2026, on the red clay of Paris. Jannik Sinner, the kid from the Alps who traded skis for a racket, is not just the best tennis player in the world right now. He is becoming one of the best tennis players who has ever lived. And the most terrifying part? He is just getting started.